Broncos country, what is going on? It's your boy here, Mark with Marky Sports. As we get closer to training camp, and we're only a couple weeks out, the Broncos are going to have a lot of fascinating storylines. But one of them that I think is extremely important that might not get the headlines like it should is the battle for the center position. And we're going to break that down in depth here today because it is extremely important. Even though it might not be sexy, it's extremely important. Guys, thank you for tuning in. If you haven't already, or if it's the first time watching your channel, welcome. I appreciate you guys tuning in. My name is Mark with Marky Sports here. I'm a Denver native. And if you love all things Denver sports, from the Broncos to the Avs to the Nuggets, and you're a big fantasy football fan, smash that subscribe button. It'll really help me out. Like the video and put your comments below, man. That's what I really like the most is the comments and getting some interactions going. So let's get right into it. All right, guys. The Broncos, they will be featuring a lot of different positional battles. We had talked about this in a previous video of like the top 5 of what I think are the most fascinating ones. But now we're really going to go in and kind of talk about each individual one more in depth. And the one that we're going to focus on today is the battle for the starting center position. Now, this is going to be really a 3-man race, in my opinion, for the starting center. We got 2 guys that are young with very, very limited to no experience, and Alex Forsyth and then Luke Wattenberg. Luke Wattenberg was drafted 2 years ago in 2022, it would have been. 6th-round pick from Washington, somebody that I think at the time with the horrible coaching staff that we had, he was drafted to kind of be a little bit more of a zone blocking scheme type of a center, a little bit smaller, undersized, more athletic. And I think he really struggled a lot in the limited time that he played. He did play some guard during his rookie season, if I remember, and he looked awful. He was he just looked like he didn't fit in right away. Took a little bit of a step from 2022 to 2023 last year, and they're really hoping that he can make the leap. From some reports that I've seen, it looks like he's gained a lot of strength. He's gained some weight, and maybe that limited experience can propel him to be the starter. In my opinion, I think he's probably the least likely of the 3 to be the Broncos starting center heading into 2024. The other guy that we have is Alex Forsyth. Now, he's a 7th-round pick last year out of Oregon, somebody that the team was really high on. I think it's really important to note that he was drafted by this coaching staff and by this front office specifically. So he's somebody that they identified as a very experienced player coming out of Oregon that fits a little bit more of the power that they're trying to have with this new offensive line under Zach Strief and in this offensive scheme under head coach Sean Payton. And they were really high on him last year. He kind of took a redshirt year to adapt a little bit into the NFL ways. They didn't really need for him to obviously play right away with Cush being here and having a really good year. But now that Lloyd Cushenberry is gone, it opens up the door for him. I think he's one of the favorites. Some people are talking about Sam Mustipher, and I can understand why. We'll get to him in a second. But the thing about Alex Forsyth is it should not be looked over that him and quarterback Bo Nix were teammates in Oregon. I think that there's a lot of carryover there. I think that there's some, the fact that they're familiar with each other, there's a little bit more chemistry kind of right off the bat, I think is really big. But Alex Forsyth is somebody that was rated to be a lot higher than a 7th-round pick, and he dropped for whatever reason. And sometimes those centers that come out that have a lot of experience in college that, teams don't really view to have a lot of upside, they don't typically get drafted very high. And this could be one of those situations with him. But he was a really, really good player in college, had a great career, played a lot of games for a pretty decent program. So the fact that he has a year under his belt, he's going in year 2 after year 2 in Zach Strief's scheme, I think could be really helpful for him. And I'm fascinated to see him play. I think he's going to get a legitimate opportunity, and I think he could be really, really good. Now, the third guy is Sam Mustipher. Now, I remember when Sam Mustipher was signed, there wasn't a whole lot of hoopla around him. There was some guys talking about, he's basically, it's very common when you have 2 young guys coming into a position, battling it out, right? So you have Luke Wattenberg and you have Alex Forsyth, both guys really young, both guys kind of with limited experience. So you always want to have a veteran there in case of emergency, whether it be these guys don't pan out, or whether it be that they just kind of, get injured or whatever it might be. You have somebody that's really solid. So when you look at Sam Mustipher, he's never really been an amazing center. Obviously, if you're really top tier center, you rarely hit the market. but he's been somebody that you can consider to be very solid. He's been fine. And he's still fairly young. He's going to be 28 here in about a month. And so, but he's got some good experience, and he's played a ton of snaps in the NFL. And the positive thing is that he played for a really good organization in the Ravens. You can always trust that anybody that's under Coach Harbaugh and in that organization can get coached right, can learn how to play the position and be a professional the right way. And looking back all the way to 2020, he played over 500 snaps. He played well over 1,000 snaps in 2021 and 2022. And then last year he was a little bit more limited as he was kind of more of a bench type of a player, somebody that would come off in relief. But 99% of those snaps were all at center. So he's a true center. And he's somebody that I think the Broncos have a really good idea and understanding of what they have with him. If he ends up showing more than what they expect, that's always a positive. But otherwise, they know that he's kind of the in case of emergency type of a center. And I think that a big majority of the snaps and the opportunities will be given to Alex Forsyth and to Luke Wattenberg to see what they have there. Whoever ends up winning that battle will ultimately at least get a roster spot, but ultimately maybe even be the starter. And the guy that doesn't, I think, can either be a practice squad guy again or maybe not even make the team. That's kind of how I see a lot of this shaking out for the team. And I want to know you guys' thoughts are. I think for me, a lot of people, going with Sam Mustipher and betting that he's going to be the starter is kind of the safe choice. But to be completely honest with you, I think that he will, I think he's going to be the swing guy. He's played some guard. He's played some center. So he could be that interior, swing lineman that we ultimately carry. But I do think that Alex Forsyth is going to be the starter. I think that the way this coaching staff wants to build this team is get a lot of those young core players, specifically the guys that were drafted last year, involved as much as you can. Same thing will go with Marvin Mims this year, what you'll see with Riley Moss, and ultimately what you're going to see with Alex Forsyth and a couple other guys is get those guys that they identified, that they handpicked, and put them in a position to go out there and win. What do you guys think? I know center is never going to be a sexy position, but one thing that's really important to understand, guys, the best offensive lines in the NFL always have a very good to elite center. Look at it across the board. It's an extremely important position, and I would make the case that it is the second most important position on an offensive line, aside from left tackle for obvious reasons, because they're responsible for the communication to the other linemen, to the quarterback, for looking at protections, for breaking it down. You got to be a very heady player. So it's not anything that we can scan over. The offensive line last year looked very improved. A lot of people are saying, well, because of Zach Strief. That's partly true, but it's also because Zach Strief helped Lloyd Cushenberry reach another level in his progression and ultimately get that boy paid. Super happy for him there. So what do you guys think? Who do you guys think is going to be the starting center? Who do you think ultimately wins it? And is there a dark horse? Is there somebody in there that maybe I'm not mentioning that could end up being the starting center? Are there going to be guys available like there usually are after training camp? Maybe. But if I'm putting my money on it today, guys, I'm guessing it's going to be Alex Forsyth. I'll give him a 70% chance in this battle to ultimately come out as the winner. I'll say about a 20% chance for Sam Mustipher to end up being the starter. And this is obviously barring any injuries. And then I'll give 10% to Luke Wattenberg. Let me know what you guys think. Appreciate y'all. Don't forget to hit subscribe. And until next time, guys, make sure you spend time with those people you love the most. Mile high salute. And as always, guys, till next time,